dropped my tail in the toilet.
Hi, I'm Jaycie. Welcome to the Forbidden Cities, a Keeper of the Lost Cities podcast. A podcast where Sydney and I talk about Keeper of the Lost Cities books, theories, characters, ships, and more. Hi everyone, welcome to our Exile spoiler-free episode. Probably episodes.
Yep.
Knowing us.
Yes.
I have
know how long
a lot of notes.
I'm so random today. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It makes it more interesting because people don't know what's about to come out of the microphone. it makes it fun. So we're just going to, I guess, go straight into it.
Do we have anything to talk about? Any
Not
announcements?
that I know of.
You should know. I just finished reading 10 minutes before we started recording.
Yeah.
Because I read to page 50 a month ago, and then I started there yesterday and speed read, and so I don't even remember any of my notes in the beginning.
I started reading probably a month ago, read to almost the end, so the part where they're at the Black Swan Cave right after the dwarf comes out and greets Sophie, and then I finished at the last 9% last night. So I read to 91% a month ago. So I remember these notes and I love my notes, but I have less notes in the last 10%.
Gotcha.
All right, so I have notes on the preface, and I'm going to do my best not to read any of my spoilery stuff because I don't have it divided.
Yeah, mine's not divided at all, and I have page numbers, so.
Not to worry, by the way, if you haven't read the rest of the books and you're like, oh no, they might say spoilers, don't worry. I will bleep it all out. So we are only spoiling book 1 and 2 with this episode.
And then after this, as usual, at some point we will do a spoiler episode so that we can do our usual
Connect it to the rest of the series, yeah.
Because that's the fun part.
So, for the preface, it said, one swallow held life and death. It was talking about the bottle. One swallow held life and death, and not just for her, for Prentice. And, throughout the book, he doesn't really come up that much because he really focused on Alden.
True, but I guess Shannon couldn't say Alden.
Yeah, that's true, because that would have been really distracting. But I was just during this book, I completely forget about Prentice. The next paragraph, basically, it was all she had to do was tip the poison down her throat. And I was like, poison? That was low-key misleading. It wasn't, it would have affected her similarly to poison, but it wasn't actually poison. I remember reading this, and I hadn't read this series very much. It was my second week of reading, and I was like, this got dark.
It's really inconvenient that Limbium is the only thing that could fix her. It's the one thing that she can't have is the thing she needs.
And I was trying to figure out why that was, and I guess it's just because they messed with her ability side of her brain so much that it was Limbium, nah.
Yeah, I wonder if they ever explain that.
Mr. Forkle kind of does at the end. I think I put a note on it, so we can read it when we get there.
Cool.
And then in chapter 1, Sophie pulled her blonde hair around her face to hide behind her hair. Anyone remember that from our book 1 spoiler-free episodes? I have one luster now, and I do actually keep tally in this book of not only my mallow melt, which is every time she pulls out an eyelash, but my lusters, which is every time she hides behind her hair.
What?
Because I have keyword search on the Kindle version.
Okay,
it's in the beginning of the book 1 episodes. It was a long time ago.
Okay, so you said you get one luster.
From when she hides behind her hair, and one piece of mallow melt every time she pulls out an eyelash.
So how many do you have?
Right now, overall for the series, I think I have 3 lusters. And then for the eyelashes, I didn't keep a tally in book 1 because I didn't have the Kindle version, but I do keep a tally in book 2, and you will see how many pieces I get.
Oh, gracious. Yeah.
Sandor picks Sophie up and, a brawny gray arm grabs Sophie from behind. Her feet dangle above the ground, and she got a face full of musky goblin sweat. And I said, delicious.
Oh, gross.
And then I always get thrown off by the fact that Sandra has a high-pitched voice.
I know.
Because Aiden finds it so funny.
I don't imagine Sandra with a high-pitched voice at all.
And so,
I know it's there, but...
But it said Sandra's high-pitched voice always reminded Sophie of a chipmunk, and I'm like... It's just...
I don't imagine that at all.
I can't picture it.
I just
from the things
ignore
he
that.
says and the fact that he's a bodyguard. Yeah, I can't put that together.
What was it? Claire was telling me something the other day that she imagines certain characters really way off, and I was like, how?
The next one. You can put me down now. As soon as her feet touched the ground, she huffed away, glaring at Sandor and struggling to remove the giant wedgie he'd given her. And I was just I was sitting.
How did she get a wedgie?
I I was sitting on my sibling's soccer field, covering my mouth, trying not to die laughing out loud because I don't want to have random social interaction. And then it said Alden refused to put her life in the hands of an inanimate accessory. I was like, that's probably smart. Talking about her registry pendant. Mm-hmm. It was like,
Yet they put her life in the hands of her Nexus all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, here's your safety thing. And then she fades with the Nexus on.
And then they give her like another.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Like fade fuel and then a second Nexus. That all happens, yeah. And in chapter 1, she tugged out a loose eyelash. The first one of the book. And I actually keyword searched eyelash. Just scrolled through and typed Malamute 1, Malamute 2, and you'll see how many I have. But this is Malamute 1. And then, whenever Sylvanie first transmits to her, she said she'd never experienced a thought as such pure emotion before.
Yes, my note says the way Sophie feels I cannot talk today. The way Sophie feels Sylvanie's emotions is almost like an empath.
Mm-hmm. And then I said, I mostly feel thoughts and emotion. I didn't realize that wasn't normal. And I didn't even realize that I did it 100% until a couple months ago. And then I was like, yeah, I can't voice a reaction to this because I only have an emotional reaction. I don't have a logical thought until I've processed the emotion.
I'm constantly like, oh, I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
It's just emotion.
I
like,
understand.
I don't know what to say.
I feel you.
Right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I understand how you feel, but I don't have words for it.
Mm-hmm.
What's another one? Oh, yes. On the next page. Let me read my note before I say. Okay. It's just, she hurried forward, afraid it would move on now that it was full, talking about how the beast that she was following must have been eating. And it accidentally stepped on a fallen branch. Goosebumps erupted all over her body, and even though she knew the emotion wasn't hers, Sophie couldn't ignore the shivering terror. That's what empaths feel like.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, Keith, at the end of the book, can feel her pain.
So, the Sophie light leaping thing, I always complain about this, but she's literally just as impulsive as Keith is.
Mm-hmm.
So, when she takes Sylvanie and light leaps,
yes,
and they're like, Sophie, no! And then she's like, ha, I'm gonna do it. And then gets in trouble. It's exactly...
He's an impulsive child. He is.
She is too.
And then it's fine. I'm fine. I promise. It's after she leapt and she was not fine and everything was swirling and she's like,
the same
I'm
thing
fine.
as Keith.
I promise.
I can't say when, but.
And then it said she said, gulping down air and willing the words to be true. My only comment was, no, don't do that. That hurts.
Gulping down air.
It hurts. It really. I've tried it before and it is not pleasant. I'm not going to demonstrate. And then, where is this? Oh, later, whenever Grady is like, Sophie, your punishment is you have to bathe the Verminion for the next month. And Grady was like, and you're going to help her, Dex. And Dex is like, what? I never did anything wrong. And Grady's like, I didn't say you did, but do you really think Sophie's just going to let you stand there and watch her work? And it said, Grady was right. She was totally going to rope Dex into helping her. And he came over almost every day. They were best friends after all. But something about the way Grady was smiling at them made Sophie's cheeks feel hot. Dex must have noticed too, because his face was bright red as he mumbled some excuse about his parents worrying if he wasn't home soon, and quickly leapt out of there.
Everyone's excuse is like, oh, I gotta go now. They like can't handle embarrassment. Every time.
My parents.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
No, I one time was really embarrassed, and I'm not giving context for this over the podcast, but I was really embarrassed, so I just stood up and walked away.
What's the context?
I'm not giving context. I'll tell you later.
Okay. But the thing I was also thinking is later in the book, he gets really upset that she's not spending time with him, and it makes more sense in the context of, oh, they've been spending time together every day before this.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I forgot about that, because Dex just kind of
fades out in the books, but anytime it's not like if there's a break between books, it's like Sophie hung out with Dex every day, and I'm like, I want to see this. I can't put it together, like the fact that they're best friends, because we never actually see them hang out, or rarely.
Yeah, it's interesting. Who would I compare that to? I don't know.
My next note isn't until chapter 4. So she was dreaming, she had like nightmares about the kidnappers basically. And it said, in that voice, she would never forget that voice. And I said, I'm 90% sure she's forgotten that voice by the end of this book. The kidnapper's voice is like, it kept echoing in her head. And literally by the end of Exile, like, the kidnappers are just a thing of the past.
True.
Well, I just love that irony. It's like she would never forget that voice, and I'm like, 14 chapters later.
See, I can't comment on that without going to spoiler section. So
yeah, I don't remember if she
put that one in bold so that we can talk about it in the spoiler
I'm not gonna
section.
erase any of these, so I'm just gonna go back through and I starred the non-spoiler ones.
Sorry, we're so unprepared this time.
We've had a busy weekend. That's why we kind of missed a few weeks. I mean, a couple of weeks because of COVID quarantine stuff. Last week was literally just because I had a lot of work and school, and I had no free days.
Yeah, and then
I visited my grandparents. Yeah,
and then I did the same thing. So we're working on it. We're working on a different schedule too. So
we have crazy lives right now, and it's getting close to finals. So a lot of studying, SAT prep, but hopefully during the summer things will be a little bit more regular.
Hopefully,
and it'll be fun.
Yep. Okay.
And then what is the next part? Oh yeah. What was it? Look up, Ellen instructed, slipping on his glasses again. Sophie obeyed, and her eyes caught the light from the cascading crystals of the chandelier in the center of the room. Ooh. It felt like the colored flash seeped into her brain, making her head throb.
Oh my goodness.
And I said it's weird that light affects her so much, because that's what made her fade. And we find out that's what broke her abilities. And in the first book, the fact that she was fading, the light seeped into her brain, and that was the thing that made her mind have the crack to begin with.
Not that I agree with it, but if you want to say Elwyn's her dad, that's evidence.
Yeah. I was like, that's Flashers. Kind of what I was implying here. Like, light affects her so much. But
I doubt it. It's probably just...
And you find out that light plays a more integral part than you think later in the series.
Exactly.
So, it
and
can
it's kind of
be
the foundation of their world and elves in general.
Because they just like light a lot.
Tell me what chapters you're on, by the way, because...
Okay, I am not sure what chapter I'm in right now. Give me 1 second. I'm still on chapter 4.
Cool.
Okay, so my next note, Sophie glared at the ground. Of course she had to visit the healing center during the first week of school. Her friends would tease her relentlessly about it, especially Keith. And I said, interesting that he was the first boy you thought of. And so it begins, or I guess continues. It kind of began in the last book.
Yep.
And then chapter 5. Do you have anything for chapter 4 or 5?
Yes. So there's this part, so you're really I cannot talk today! You're really lucky, Sophie, Bianna added, her eyes stretching wide as Sylvanie flapped her wings. She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She is, isn't she? Keith groaned. What is it with girls and sparkles? Sparkles make everything better, Bianna informed him, and Sophie had to agree. You don't think she's amazing? Sophie asked him. Give me, or is it A? It's A. I don't know. Give me some, no, it's Yeah. See, a few years ago, I said and she was like, it's A. And
who says
I felt
A?
really dumb the whole time ever since then.
Who says
I don't know. Anyway, it says, give me something that shoots fire any day. Anyway, Keith, it's funny because he's like, I don't care about Sylvanie, whatever. And then later he's like, Sylvanie! She's like, Keith! True.
It's once he's like, oh, she likes me? I like her.
Yeah. And he's like, what's with girls and sparkles? And then he's like, sparkly poop. Yes.
I remember that. That's like later in this book. And the E versus A, email us, by the way, or Instagram message us, like, if you say A instead of E. I think it might just depend on accents.
Yeah.
So I now want the research on that. Tell me if you say A instead of E.
Kind of like a shrug, like, whatever.
Right. Like,
but A, whatever. That's no.
It's like Irish.
Uh-huh.
Last I heard, this is Grady talking to Timken. Last I heard, your wife was the only one appointed to the nobility, and only as a regent, not an emissary. So guys, keep in mind that there's this position called a regent that's lesser than an emissary.
Yes, I was trying to think of that the other day.
That's mentioned in book 2? Oh, I didn't even know that was mentioned, like, early in the series.
Yeah, I knew it, but I would always forget the name of it. I was like, there's emissary, then something, and I don't know what it is.
I had zero memory of it.
Wow, really?
Zero. I was like, oh, I've never heard of this before. Okay. And then, I can feel her pain, Sophie insisted, talking about Sylvanie. Stina laughed her high, wheezy snicker. Last I checked, empathy wasn't an ability your creators gave you. Just gonna leave that. Do with it what you will. And then Sophie says, I don't have to be an empath. I can feel her emotions with my mind. And Timken said, that's impossible.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then whenever Keith comes in, hey, a guy's got to look his best for the ladies. Right, Foster? Sophie ignored him, though she could feel her cheeks blushing.
It's what I was saying earlier. Every time Keith tries to flirt with her, she just ignores it.
She
and I'm like,
ignores
I
it.
relate.
But she's like blushing in all caps. And so it begins. Baby Keith Foster. Adorable. I love Baby Keith Foster.
So I have another note on this page, but I got to figure out exactly what I was saying. My note here says, yes, Shannon, the bringing stuff up and character development for everyone, we love it. Because here it's like death was such a rare occurrence for the elves that most of them didn't understand it or feel the right amount of sympathy. And then her mind flashes to a devastated Fitz holding the small Albertosaurus she'd given him during midterms and telling her he'd been to her funeral. And then it says, it was strange to imagine her friends mourning for her. And I was like, yes, she mentions character development for everybody. I like it. I just like when she does stuff like that.
In Chapter 5, Sophie tugged out an eyelash as Alden hesitated to answer. 2 pieces of Malamel. And then later, like literally in the next paragraph, she was talking about there were rebellions and underground groups and conspiracies to burn down the human world. I'm pretty sure I have to cut out the name. Pretty sure the rebels' plan is a little more complex than burning down the human world. Alden kind of, at the end of book 1, like, I didn't realize that he outlined so clearly the whole thing about, like, oh, yeah, because they wanted to build a human sanctuary and some rebels broke away.
And no one ever mentions that.
It's never brought up again. And then later, like even in this book, they're like, what did the rebels want to do?
Be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, we're so many books in and we still don't know what the rebels' plan is. Dude, reread book 1.
Yeah.
Go back to the beginning of the series. Shannon talked about this. She's probably like sitting at home and someone's telling her these comments and she's just like, I thought I went over this. What? So anyway, and then still in the same chapter, it's Sophie and Fitz were transmitting. And it was, thanks, Sophie transmitted back. You really don't think it's weird that I can talk to Sylvanie? Are you kidding? I wish you could teach me how to do it. Sophie smiled. I can try. Hey, what did I tell you two about secret telepath conversations? Keith asked as he shoved his way between them. Unless you're talking about me, keep it out loud. Fitz laughed. Keith just wishes he could swap secret messages with you.
Well,
please, I don't need your little mind tricks. I can feel Foster's secrets. He fanned the air around her, and I feel some pretty intense emotions right now. Probably because I'm wondering if I should strangle you or beat you with my shoe.
I love that part.
It's like, she doesn't think she's flirting, but she definitely is. And I have more thoughts and connections to make whenever we get to our spoilery episodes.
Remind me to tell you something after this.
I know exactly what you're going to say. And then I put a note on, what is it with girls and sparkles? And then sparkles make everything better.
You're more obsessed with sparkles than anyone except Biana.
Next paragraph. I am definitely a fan of Gulons. Legend had it that Keith had been the mastermind behind something called the Great Gulon Incident, but Sophie still had no clue what had actually transpired.
Guess y'all will have to find out if they talk about it.
Don't hold your breath. And then, like 2 paragraphs later, Keith was like, oh, are you guys going to go to Atlantis for the Euriptidid races? And I was like, the what now? And I realized also in book 1, they were talking about, or maybe it was in this book.
Did you say
Euriptidid races?
Euriptidid?
It's an animal of some type.
Yeah.
But they were also talking about Bramble, and they were like, this contest is every 3 or 4 years or something. And then they said that it had happened like 11 years ago or something. But I did the math, and it should have happened in the series. And maybe so, like, there's all these cultural things that supposedly happen that we never actually see happen in the series.
Yeah,
and
though it does slow down a lot. Yeah, I would like to too.
But like,
and you
timeline-wise, it should have.
Or you could say, though,
yeah,
that's a spoiler. Sir, cut that out. I was saying that some things got canceled, and then I realized it was a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you what. But like, that could be why. That could be an explanation. But I want it to happen. It's kind of like Harry Potter.
Yeah, well, in Harry Potter still they have some stuff. Like the Triwizard Tournament, that still happens.
But they consider shutting it down, don't they?
I think during the Triwizard Tournament, they consider.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, they still go to the Quidditch match. Like, all those things still happen. Because, I mean, think about it in real life. Like, people would still be trying to establish a sort of sense of normalcy if it was, like, war. Everything wouldn't be shut down. You know, you still have local races and stuff. But there's...
Thanks about 2020.
Yeah, well, see, that's different because there's a sickness.
Yeah.
But, like, for wartime, some stuff... I mean, like... The Olympics were canceled during World War II, but I'm sure there were still, like, local, you know, races, and people could just still do stuff at home.
True.
So I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there should be more.
They have
I want
all those
more.
festivals, the Celestial Festival.
That's true. They do have some.
And the thing in the end of this book where Sophie appears. Yeah. But I would like to see more.
I want a Euriptid race.
Oh, yeah. Don't they use Euriptids in the first book, though?
I want to see a Bramble match.
Like, she meets one because it's in the carriage.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. So that wasn't totally new, but yeah, races. And Bramble.
And Bramble. Tackle Bramble.
Bramble's a cool name for a game.
Okay.
On page 60, it feels weird to me that everyone thinks Sophie looks like Jolie. Like, it still feels weird. I don't know why that is. It's like a misleading thing.
I can't explain without spoiling.
Well, I guess because, yeah.
Well, part of the reason is because she's with Grady and Adeline, and people are like, oh, the blonde girl with Grady and Adeline. Yeah, that's Jolie.
True.
It
still feels weird, though. Jolie, just everything with her feels weird. But we can't get into it.
Do you think she'll be alive? I've seen a lot of Jolie as alive theories. Actually,
I don't know.
I read this one fan fiction. I'll have to tell you about it later because it's a book 3 spoiler.
Yeah, we can't spoil it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a great fan fiction.
I haven't thought enough about it. Maybe we should do an episode about that. Email us if you want an episode about that. About Jolie theories.
About which characters could be alive.
Yeah,
how
which
to
characters?
resurrect all the characters. Sophie knew for about 2 weeks. Everyone thought she and Dex were dead. I didn't realize it was 2 weeks because it felt like 2 days.
I remember in the last book, I was like, or in our last discussion, I think I said 2 weeks. Like, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
That's insane. Poor babies.
Yeah. And then chapter 6, do you have anything else for chapter 5 or 6?
Yep. So 63. So this part about Vertina, where is it? Oh. Is it alive? Just a clever bit of programming. A novelty that never caught on because people realized they didn't want their mirrors to tell them they looked tired or out of fashion. Jolie loved hers, though. They became friends. She even used to come back to visit Vertina on her rest weeks from the elite towers. They were that close. That's weird to me. You come visit your clever bit of programming. Not your parents. You come home from the elite towers to visit the mirror. That you just said is a clever bit of programming.
Does she not have friends? Was Jolie just quiet? Jolie seemed
I don't know.
Jolie did not seem like an introvert from the memories because it's like she always seemed happy and energetic, which is again
I guess she was just close with her mirror, which is fine. But like, I don't understand. I'd be like, that's just weird.
I already don't like normal mirrors, but then like again, a mirror that tells me you look bad.
Well, just
I'd be like,
just the fact that it's a robot, not a person. That's just weird to me. But then again, we're over here spending hours talking about fictional characters, so like
that's true. That's kind of fair. And I mean, I can't say that I haven't just had a conversation with Alexa before. So if she was a little bit smarter, like if she was realistic like Jolie, I can understand.
Random thought, is it almost not as creepy if you think about that another person programmed the program?
I guess. What's weird is why didn't she just bring it to the elite levels with her? Is that illegal?
I don't know.
Why is that illegal?
Elite levels. I think I have notes of like what
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, because it's like you're trapped there because Jolie and Brant sent letters and things like that while she was there.
It's kind of also implied, or like as in terms of what they learn. Later in the series, some of the counselors sort of say that they were taught non-elven languages like Ogreish, and then that they were taught kind of the theory of other abilities. So like in Foxfire, you get ability training, but in the elite levels, you get taught the theory of, because in another book, one of the counselors is talking about like inflicting theory, because Bront won't teach because Bront is Bront. But yeah, you kind of learn, that's at least what you learn is like, I guess you just learn everything.
Well, I'm not even talking about what you learn. I'm talking about, are you like secluded?
I guess
so
you are,
weird.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
It seems like you're trapped there because even whenever they were going to see in
Like
this
college,
book,
but a trap.
they went to see like Wiley
Uh-huh.
in it, and he couldn't even come out. Like they were all up on like a balcony up above them.
Yeah.
So they were really just in seclusion, and I think they mentioned it's like to keep them from distractions.
Yeah,
But
there's something about that. And then, but aren't Keith and Fitz almost old enough to go into the elite levels?
yes. Oh no.
Yeah, oh no. Keith's gonna be like, see ya. Sneaking out.
There's almost no way at this point that Keith would want to go to the elite levels.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And Fitz would want to go. He's very concerned about
Yeah.
like status and all that.
Do we get to get rid of Fitz?
All the Fitz fans are gonna be like, oh.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I actually give him some credit later in our notes.
But I 100% feel like Fitz could be a counselor.
Mhm.
And if he does become a counselor, you do have to have passed the elite levels. Like you have to, because that's how you get into the nobility, really.
Not even like.
And he's not a part of the thing, the group that becomes formed in book 8. So to be in the nobility, he would like have to go to the elite levels.
True.
And he's 100% not missing out on that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I like the Fitz as a counselor theory.
I-
Not even because, because that makes Fitz fee.
I even feel like at some point Sophie could abolish the marriage rule in some way.
But I just like Fitz being a counselor because that would work. He would be good at it. He would like it.
And his name, it means like son of the king or something. It means some part of his name, I think Avery maybe, means ruler or like leader or something. So
maybe.
It would make sense. I feel like it's implied. And we don't know any Vackers that are in the council right now, but the Vackers are known to be like the central family of the world.
Okay, I have one for page 69. So what chapter are you on?
I am in chapter 6.
Oh, wow. Okay. Keep going.
And then Grady was asking, are you sure? Oh, he was asking like, are you sure you want to go to Jolie's grave? And this is Sophie's thought process, and I can just relate to it so much. And this is something like you were saying.
We were talking about Sophie's thought process earlier, and I was like, her thought process is so similar to mine. Did I pick up on Sophie's thought process from reading this since I was 12? Like,
right?
Was it nature or nurture?
And then, so Grady was like, are you sure you want to? And Sophie goes, I'm sure. They'd been doing this for 16 years. She wasn't going to let them do it alone anymore. Unless, do you not want me to go? And like just that sort of, it's FE. But yeah, I was like, I can relate to that. Like being like, oh yeah, I'm going to help you. Wait, do you not want me to? Overthink.
Like, just tell me. I'll do it.
Yep, whatever you want. And then later in this, only elves are allowed in the Wonderlings. Even the counselors leave their bodyguards behind. That changes soon.
Oh, yeah.
And then she sucked in, what is it, Adeline swallowed, she nodded. Oh, then she turned to face Sophie. And it says she sucked in a breath when she spotted the ruined crest. As then Sophie instantly does the FE. I don't have to wear it if... No, Adeline stopped her from unfastening it. You should wear it. I'm sorry. It just surprised me because it makes you look even more like her. The words were strange, prickly things, and Sophie never knew what to do when Adeline said them. She knew Adeline meant them as a compliment, but Sophie couldn't help wishing that she didn't have to be the shadow of someone else.
Words are strange, prickly things. I like that. That's true.
She says that again in book 5.
She uses a lot of phrases, but I guess that's realistic.
I have little phrases I use, so I feel
I'm
that.
I'm going to adopt that. Words are strange, prickly things.
Prickly things.
It's
prickly
accurate.
words.
Yeah.
I hate it's like, words. I don't know what to do
I love
with
words, and I hate them at the same
time. So this is something else that Grady says that reminds me of my dad. Sophie was in her low heels. She was 13 now. Seemed like the time to switch to more mature footwear.
That was so me when I was 13.
When I was 13, I was like, you think that I'm mature?
Okay, no, I literally, because I keep diaries, I was reading one the other day, and I was either 12 or 13, probably 12, and I got to wear high heels to my cousin's wedding, and I literally wrote down, I feel so mature. It makes me happy that my mom lets me wear heels now. It's like, oh my
goodness.
child.
That's, yeah. And then it said she tripped so badly on the last step that she would have fallen if it wasn't for Grady's quick reflexes. And then this thing he says, my dad says, verbatim, every time I trip, and I am clumsy. Still getting the hang of walking, huh? I read that and I was like, does Shannon spy on my dad? Is that just a dad thing? But yeah, he says that to me a lot, and I just glare at him because that's the funny thing is he's pretty clumsy too, because he has inferior SE. So I trip on stuff, but he's rather on the clumsy side too. So I make fun of him. You. Hi, Daddy. And then chapter 7 is my next note. Do you have anything for chapter 7?
I'm not till chapter 7. But go ahead. I think yours is before mine.
So there's like pebbles on the pathway to the Wonderling Woods, and it says the silver pebbles didn't
I read this last night and I was like, huh?
Mm-hmm. I was like, I would be so weirded out. And then also she's wearing high heels on a pebble walkway.
Oh gosh. Have you ever worn high heels in like a damp field?
Yeah, you just sink into the field. But can you imagine on pebbles you're like constantly turning your ankle?
Yes.
I don't think it even says. Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't even bring back up the high heels, but I was like, okay, Shannon overlooked that because I would have.
Are they wedges? Because that's wedges.
Let's see.
Yes. See,
it just said low heels.
Just so you know, I love heels. I learned to dance in them after like a year because we had to wear high heels for dance class.
That's cool.
But I have not done dance in a year because COVID, and so I've lost my ability to balance.
I just did. I had like high heel tap shoes because at a certain level, like you were required to switch to high heel tap shoes because they make better noises or whatever. But yeah, I don't do tap anymore. But that's kind of like the length of my experience because you do a lot of jumping around, and I'm horrible balance. I have zero balance.
It was great.
It's a problem.
Yeah, I used to be able to run in them, and then I lost it all during quarantine.
That's crazy. I could jump around like on one foot with them because that's kind of, part of tap. But yeah, I also lost that because I was clumsy. It took me a really long time to be able to get it. And then the Lord of the Rings thing, it said, I think Tolkien wrote them during the 1930s or 40s. And then Grady said that's before the Human Assistance Program was banned. Mm-hmm. We used to send members of the nobility in disguise to try to teach humans our ways. The treaties had fallen apart, but we still hoped to guide them, bring them out of the darkness and into a new age of light. In fact, most of the great human innovations of the last few centuries happened under elven tutelage. Electricity, penicillin, chocolate cake. But too many of our gifts backfired, and a few decades ago, the problem escalated to a point where the council had no choice but to terminate the program and ban all human contact. I didn't realize that it was that recent. That was in the last, 100 years.
Yeah, well, it was the Human Assistance Program, but it wasn't the human contact,
Atlantis it was, in disguise.
Yeah.
But I still didn't realize that, the thing in disguise was so recent. Mm-hmm. So that must have been, because I was trying to figure out, what was the reason that the Black Swan decided to start Project Moonlark at that time versus earlier or holding it off more. But I guess the trigger was the Human Assistance Program being banned, and they were like, well, this is a step backwards.
Alden said about 100 years ago was the Human Sanctuary thing. Maybe less than 100. No, it was really recent. Mm-hmm. Whenever he said that a few years ago, they wanted to put humans in a sanctuary.
The sanctuary, yeah.
It was really recent, because I remember being like, whoa.
Yeah, all these problems with humans, it's been very recent.
Yeah.
So that's the connection. On, the next page, this is kind of random, but it's while Sophie's, standing near Cyrus' tree, and, the petals are falling.
I have one on here, too.
It says, the petals slipped through Sophie's fingers, and I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. The mirror slipped through Sophie's fingers and landed on the petaled carpet with a soft thud. For those of you who don't know, that's the Everblaze preface that I had memorized for such a long time. I love book 3. I'm so excited.
So my note on here says, let me see exactly where it is. Page 69. Okay. There had to be at least 100, she's talking about the Wanderlings, spread among the meandering hills and carefully manicured bushes. It seemed like a lot, but the Wanderling Woods was the elves' only graveyard. Could they really have only lost 100 elves in all the centuries they'd been alive?
I have the exact same highlight.
Mm-hmm. What did you say? I just said
I was just
100 elves? Yeah. So I remember one time on Instagram, I was talking to this girl, and in the comments, and I mentioned maybe there could have been we don't know elven history. There could have been a lot of them wiped out in the past. I guess this kind of disqualified that,
Mhm.
but...
Yeah, they couldn't have because they'd only lost, like, 100 elves. And that just...
Unless
like,
they lost elves and never buried them. Like, there was a war or something. I still want to hold on to the idea of there being, like, deep history, but...
Because that would be too hard to wipe from the minds. Because the big thing about the elves who do have lost someone is they don't have anyone to relate to. Because I feel like there's a lot of elves, like a lot more than we realize, because we don't see a lot because they're all kind of hermitized, sort of, because they're all hidden away in different places. But I feel like there's a lot of them, and to only have lost 100, that means there's literally 200 people who have lost someone.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of people to relate to, and I feel like a lot of those 200 people are going to become hermits even more, like what Grady and Adeline did. And so they're not exactly like, oh yeah, I'll go visit and talk about my grief. And then they even mention in this book, grief can break your mind just as much as guilt can.
I wonder how many people have broken minds.
I know. That's I'm not sure because they haven't brought it up a lot. It's kind of...
There's definitely more than 1,000 elves, like a couple thousand.
Oh, yeah. There's
a lot.
Probably millions of elves.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how many of them have had their minds broken. Not, forcefully broken, but, how many of them have shattered. And what do they do with shattered elves normally? Because, out of 100, I mean, all of them have family members and friends.
And it's rare enough that Alden was shattered, that they had to think about...
Yeah, they kind of were scattered.
What?
They were kind of scattered, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, because they were like, oh, I guess we should give him a planting.
I guess we should tell the council at some point.
Yeah.
And then... Oh, is this the thing I said? Okay, I have a controversial statement to make that I can't go much into in this book, but we will we can't go much into in this episode, but we will in the spoiler episode. So Adeline's voice is, Grady was talking about, the vine was only lasts a few weeks, but it's the best gift we can give her. Plus this, Adeline's voice is barely audible as she gently pulled one of the branches down, revealing a silver charm bracelet tucked between the blossoms. She moved a tiny crystal star, etc., etc., etc. But Adeline...
She's not, though.
Adeline is a knockoff orally.
No.
Fight me.
No. I'll fight you in the next episode.
We will discuss this.
It's because they have similar... I can't say that.
They have similar personalities.
Well, no.
Adeline's ISFJ.
Yeah, well, similar-ish, but I'll fight you in the next one because
Adeline...
I can't say anything without spoiling. So my next one is on page 71. I said, it's interesting how they talk about Jolie's tree as if it is her, but in reality, her body is not there. Where is it buried? The tree is a separate thing. It just shares her characteristics. It's weird because they're like, this is the only gift I can give her, and it's literally not her. It's like a tree
literally
clone.
Just a tree grown from her hair.
Yeah, it's like a...
It's not her. It's...
Well, and then what did they do?
Out.
Yeah. What did they do with elves' bodies? Like, cremate them?
Jolie was burnt.
Oh, yeah.
Cremate them.
I forgot.
Yes. I guess it depends on how you died. If you died from fire... What's that ever was? If you died from fire...
It's just weird that they don't bury them. They're just like clone tree.
Hide it somewhere. They probably bury them. They probably do.
Yeah, but and then they just leave it. They just don't care. Like, they don't give them a grave. They're just like, no, we're making a clone tree.
We're burying you in the ground. You're gonna decompose.
Like, we don't care. We're making you a tree. Just stay there.
That's so weird. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Why? I guess it's less morbid to think about a tree than a dead body.
They speak about the tree as if it's the person. Like, here's my gift to your tree we made from your DNA. It's weird.
It's so weird.
It's sweet, but it's weird.
I'm sure the first person to come up with it had their mind halfway broken from grief, and they were like, tree from hair. It is them.
This is so morbid.
It's more just deranged. I'm skipping some stuff that I don't want to have to partially go into it. I just want to fully go into it in the spoiler episode. So yeah, keep talking.
Summer. Oh, okay. On page 82. Oh, yeah, that's a spoiler. Okay.
So this is kind of explaining Brant a little more. Brant's sanity cracked during the fire. Watching the house burn, knowing Julie was inside, knowing he couldn't save her, it was too much. Grady's voice vanished for a second. He had to swallow to bring it back. The trauma and guilt broke part of him. He's not completely catatonic like someone whose sanity is shattered, but reading Brant's mind is extremely dangerous. So that's at least the difference, I guess that's the difference between guilt and grief. Yeah. Shattering. Grief, your sanity sort of cracks, but it's not shattered. Like, it breaks part of you, but you're not insane, like, how Alden ends up in this book.
The thing is, well, we're not going to talk about that yet.
What happens if the two combine? So the next kind of note I have is...
recording, you said?
Chapter 10, yeah.
Cool.
They're talking about custard bursts, and Brant's like, "You've never tried one, Sophie?" And Sophie's like, and Adeline goes, "I only make them once a year." I'm like, I would have been so uncomfortable, like, this is so awkward. I only make them once a year. Oh, that's fine. I said, this had to be so awkward. And then a little bit later, it said Brant coughed, and Adeline asked if he was sick. I didn't know Elves got sick. Like, I didn't... Because they've kind of sort of talked about it before. I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
But because they have the elixir of life or whatever.
Youth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they have Elwyn.
Do elves get sick?
Elwyn's,
I mean, he's more for injuries, right?
Well,
I don't know.
oh, they have those pathogens that has. That's a spoiler. Block out her name. But they it's mentioned that you
can make them get sick.
I guess you can just fix it
if they don't drink the elixir of life. They might.
I'll whisper. Another character has like remedies for things, so I guess true. They do. So I have one on page 90, where mostly she's talking about Brant. Mostly he stared at her with his damaged face, which made her want to look anywhere but at him, and yet he held her gaze like a tractor beam. And then I just have a random note from Who Knows When on the book that says, "What kind of analogy is that? A tractor beam?" Sophie, I thought you grew up in California.
That's true. Ew, that's so
tractors
weird.
in California. Tractor. I don't know anything about California, okay? Now you know we don't live in California.
That they've narrowed down. Not Texas, not California.
Have we talked about Texas?
Yeah, because we were like, what if Keith ended up in Texas?
And not England.
Well, they know we're American from our voices.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying.
Then... Oh, here it is. They were Jolie's favorite, too, talking about... Because Adeline gave Sophie... I guess this must have been the custard burst, but she made her a dessert. And it said Sophie's, like, stuffed it all in her mouth. And Adeline's like, yeah, they were Jolie's favorite, too. I guess that's why I don't make them often. But if you like them, I can make them more often. And I was like, that feels like a guilt trip. That feels passive-aggressive. Yeah. I don't think it's intended, but still. And that's kind of my first reason why, between Sophie and Adeline, my stomach's growling. I don't know if it's hurt overnight, because I don't think it could be. But that's why I'm like, orally.
You want some custard burst.
I want custard burst. That must be it. But that's why Adeline is a knockoff Orly.
She's not.
Knockoff.
No.
Because Orly's nicer.
What? No.
Oh, man. I'm going to get... And so much... Sydney... I feel like it's good that you're against me at this, and you can
I'm just narrowing my eyes like, what? It's because of something, but I can't say it.
There's gonna be a lot of people protesting this.
Yeah, I can't say it, but it's because of something, and you're gonna listen to me and agree.
Okay, no. We'll get to it.
So are you to the end of that chapter yet? I have one at the very end.
I have a couple more things.
Okay, continue.
Whenever Iggy gets died, I was like, and so it begins. And then Dex says, here's hoping my tree captured my stunning good looks. And
I know. Like, I have a note that's like, that sounds like Keith.
Dex is a knockoff Keith.
Well,
and
he's a
all wannabe.
Yeah. But he's different.
He does little things that are sort of Keith-like throughout the series. And even whenever they kind of hang out in this book, they bond a little bit, and it's like, they're like, oh, we're kind of alike.
Yeah,
they'd be good friends. I feel like
they are good
if they weren't. I mean, yeah. At this point, they're kind of still fighting over Sophie halfway. So
yeah. Go ahead.
That's all I have for that chapter. My next one.
Okay. So at the end of that chapter, I just have that it was Brant's raspy, haunting voice repeating over and over, I've seen you before.
But he never told her where.
If you're reading the series for the first time, I'm really curious about y'all's theories, by the way.
Yeah,
we won't spoiler them, just...
Yeah, like, tell us your theories. If you want to email us or message us on Instagram, tell us what you think, because we love hearing, like, what people thought about the series before they read it, and we're going to
we could include that.
We're going to soon start releasing, or we're going to, in an upcoming episode, release what my dad thought about the series before he read it.
If you have thoughts, and like you're on book 1 or 2, please, or 3, just anywhere in the series that's like book 4, book 5, up until then, you should email us what you think and like your theories before.
I would love to make this a theme. Like,
yeah,
here are some early series theories, or just like things that you used to think about the series that now you're like, that was such a weird theory.
Like our. Well, we can't say some of them now.
We'll say whenever we do the episode, though, we can...
Oh, but y'all won't be able to listen to it until you finish
the series. Yeah,
you
have to finish the series.
Yeah.
So the next note I have, Sophie pulled her hair around her face, wishing she could hide. This is in chapter 11, like about midway through. But, yeah, I get another luster. I now have 2 for this book, 4 for the series.
So, my next one is on page 105.
Okay. Is that in chapter 11?
I believe so. Yep. Do you have any in chapter 11?
I have one other, but I don't know if it's spoilery or not, so you do your... Oh, no, it's not spoilery, actually. So you go ahead. You might have the same one.
So, I was just saying how... Okay, so you have back here, Grady's like, get on Sylvanie. Go flying with Sylvanie. You'll be fine. And she's like, it's kind of weird that he's letting me take risks. And then just a few pages later, he's like... Don't panic, Sophie. I'm going to get you down. And then, you've got 1 more minute, he shouted back. Then I'm dragging you down. And I'm like, Grady, hush. You are the reason she's up there.
And then this is, Grady talking about whenever he first manifested. I was just like, oh, poor Grady. This must have been awful. This is in chapter 11. Kids at school didn't trust me. So, sorry, what were you going to say?
Just star that because I want to talk about it in the spoiler one.
Kids at school didn't trust me after I manifested. They told me they didn't want me messing with their minds. Others would lie to get out of detention and say I made them do whatever they got caught doing. And when I got awards or praise, they'd claim I used my ability to cheat. Even Adeline's parents teased me when we got engaged. Said they should find a way to make sure I hadn't mesmerized her into marrying me.
That's awful.
They meant it as a joke, but... And I was like, poor Grady. That would make me really angry. Yeah. See, that's the thing, like, personally insulting me. I would be
And then
mad.
I love how Sophie's like, yeah, I can relate because of inflicting, being teased for inflicting.
Yep.
Because Bianna specifically did that, she said. Or she teased her, and Sophie was like, cringe.
Yeah. And then, right at the beginning of chapter 12, this is one of my favorite scenes in the early part of the series. So, Sophie falls into the alicorn manure, right? Bront comes. This is who we're trusting with the most important creature on our planet. Okay, so this is the backstory to my favorite scene in the early series, I should say. A sharp voice barked as Sophie flailed in the stinky waste, which was surprisingly glittery. Apparently, she'd found the one thing sparkles didn't make better. And then it said that she looked at the counselors. She could only recognize 5 of them. I was like, 5? That's more than I thought. And then I thought about it for a second. I was like, I can think of the... Guess, which 5 do you think?
Oh, Emery, Tarek, Bront, O'Reilly, and Kenrick.
There you go, yeah. That's exactly what I thought. And then it was the others, as the counselors were talking, and it was like, their eyes glued to Sylvanie, who was preening the feathers on her glistening wings, looking gleaming and majestic and without a single fleck of poop on her anywhere. Sophie started plotting revenge.
I love Sophie's deadpan. It's just so funny.
And then Kenrick's the first one to like talk to her. He's like, "Can you really communicate with her?" He's always so just energetic and happy and nice to her. And
I have 2 pages after that.
My comment is literally, "Hi, thank you for being nice." And then I have Tarek. A lot of that's on Tarek. Tarek is sus. Tarek is so sus. Everything he says is sus. And I'm gonna bring it up a lot, but here's some highlights.
Wait. Okay, go ahead.
How did you find her? He asked, his cobalt blue eyes focused so intently on Sophie she felt like he was trying to take another reading. Incredible, Counselor Tarek breathed as Sylvanie nudged Sophie, etc. Our long-lost elf and the most searched-for creature on the planet, stumbling across each other in the middle of a forest in the Forbidden Cities. It's almost impossible to believe there were no other forces at play, especially when you consider the unique connection the two appear to have. It seems unlikely that it happened purely by chance.
Don't go into spoilers, but...
I'm not. I'm just reading all the sus things he says.
It's really sus.
Everything else I'll have to say in the spoiler episode. When you put it that way, it does seem rather absurd, but surely you can agree that it's a stunning coincidence, especially considering that this completely resets the timeline. Literally, my comments are like, everything you do is suspicious.
Yes.
Just the way he talks.
Yep.
But now all of that has changed, Counselor Tarek added quietly. Everything has changed.
So I have a note a little bit before this, which has nothing to do with that, but I'm just saying it because it's right before this. So where Emery's like, I know we come unannounced. Counselor Emery, the spokesman for the council, said in his deep, booming voice. You like my deep, booming voice?
Can you imagine counselor meetings? They're just like talking, debating, and Emery's just like, let's go visit Sophie.
Huh? Wait, he's like, what?
Let's go visit Sophie.
He's like, we were eager to see this remarkable discovery for ourselves. And I just put down, Emery, how hard would it have been to just hail Grady and let him know you're coming? Like,
honestly, like
he's like, we come unannounced. They literally could have just texted him.
Right.
They're like, hey, we're coming. He could,
I don't know. I feel like the counselors
they just show up.
Yeah, they're just like, we can do whatever we want to do. Hello.
And I guess they'd probably be like, let's see what they look like when, or like what they're doing when they don't know we're coming. Just like,
and then they just show up. Sophie's in, you know, sparkly poop, and they're like, oh, sorry, we didn't announce ourselves, but like, you're incompetent. Sophie's like, I would have prepared.
For real, yeah, and then I just have emphasis on Tarek being unable to read her. So it's interesting that they note this because this, we can say this without a spoiler. We think that Tarek
is faking his ability.
We possibly think that Tarek is faking his ability.
So I was like, I feel like he's faking his ability. I brought it up, and then we were like, no, that couldn't be true. And then I found out that someone else had the same theory, and I was like, okay, I'm back on this theory.
Yep.
I'm back on this train.
Yeah, so there's an emphasis on that right here. It says, Sophie remembered him from their private consultation a few months back. He was a desk writer, able to sense and interpret potential, and the council had ordered him to take a reading of her. Unfortunately, all he'd felt was something strong, and he had been unable to translate what it meant. Also, I have a note that I must have skipped because it has to do with Timken. No, it's later. But later they mentioned that Timken tried to fake an ability. So that's a thing that happens. He tried to fake his ability and got, I don't know what ability, but he got caught. So, yeah, that's a thing that you can do.
That makes me happy. And what else was it? Oh, right. Whenever Fenton's ability got sort of taken away, they mentioned this in book 1, but you know, whenever pyrokinesis gets banned, he gets removed from the council. And so, like, that's a thing. That would be a good reason to fake an ability, is to be a counselor. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what Timken was trying to do, is get in an ability. Yeah. But yeah.
So it's been mentioned. It's a thing. It's, like, possible to try. And Dex is like, I'm going to trigger a different ability.
I'm just going to manifest another one. And Sophie's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And then it just works that way for Sophie.
Right. Later in this chapter, Bront is like, oh, the Alicorn's care should be entrusted to experts. He just starts personally insulting everyone because, you know, what else do you do whenever you're losing an argument? He's like, our Alicorn's care should be entrusted to experts. Look at her. Sophie's cheeks flamed as Bront pointed a bony finger. I don't know why it was so funny. A bony finger.
It's like a witch.
At her
a Disney villain.
A witch. I love that mental picture. Bront is a witch. So Bront, literally in the next sentence, he says, because Grady and Adeline are like, Sophie isn't the only one training the Alicorn. We're experts and we're going to be helping her. And he goes, 2 of our world's most scandalous misfits. Oh yes, I feel much better. Need I remind you that mere months ago, the Roween name was uttered only with ridicule and scorn? How many years have you isolated yourself at this estate, letting the rumors spread of your madness without bothering to deny them?
Did you say Roween?
Roween?
No, it's Ruin, because it sounds like ruin.
I like Roween.
No! Ruin, because ruined, they've been ruined.
Is that how it's, like,
Shanna mentioned
to be
that.
Pronounced?
Because she said she likes how it sounds like ruined.
Okay, that's smart. I don't know, I've always pronounced it Roween in my head. I mean, to be fair, your pronunciation...
Wait, yeah, my pronunciations are,
I was listening to another podcast, and, one of the people in it mispronounced something, and it was really, really funny. I'll tell you later. Okay. But it was just super funny.
I don't say Gisela right. I say Gisela.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where to find it in Unlocked, but I can find it later. But yeah, once I've started pronouncing something in my head one way, it takes me a really long time to change it. Like, I used to pronounce Orly, which is what you still do. But I was determined to change it because I was like, I really care about her. Adeline, I don't care about.
Wait, but you say it right?
I say Adeline right, but not her last name.
Oh,
I still
okay.
just say Raylene. Like,
well, but it's Grady's too, and Sophie's potential, kind of. She has the ruined crest.
Sophie Foster. Everyone calls her Sophie Foster.
So, and then I have one about Bront insulting people too. Hold on, let me find it. Where is it? What does he... I just said I'm going to start using what Bront said as an insult, and I don't know what he said. It's something really funny. What does he say in this? Oh, no, it's not that funny, but I was like, hasn't anyone educated this child in the fundamental principles of our world? And me and my sister call each other child all the time. We're like, child, stop. And I'm going to be like that. I'm like, has anyone educated this child in the fundamental principles of our world?
I love that. And then kind of after Bront insults Grady and Adeline, and like he's like, oh, they hermetized themselves. Sophie's like thinking, this is her thoughts, they'd pulled away from everyone because they'd lost their only daughter and had to care for Brant in a world where almost no one knew how to relate to their grief. Couldn't the council understand that? I just made a face at Sydney. Those of you who are listening to the spoiler-free episodes, but are okay with spoilers or know, I guess, the rest of the series, you're gonna know why I made a face at Sydney.
So, my next note is chapter 13. So.
Okay. Yeah, mine too.
Okay. So on the first page of chapter 13, I have this sounds like me and my dad arguing, where it's wait, why don't you want to help the council? It's not that I don't want to help them, Sophie. It's just complicated. Doesn't seem complicated to me, she grumbled. That's me. My next note is just that I love Alden in this book. Like, he gets annoying later, but he's really sweet in this book. I like it.
Right here in the same chapter, whenever they were talking about, Emery's like, can we really discount Miss Foster's connection to this creature? And then there's silence while everyone stares at her, and it says, Orly's quiet voice broke the silence. I think we should let Sophie try. I can feel her determination from here, as well as the bond between her and Sylvanie. Those advantages are far superior to what little experience the Hex family may have. I agree with Orly, Kenrick chimed in. Brunt snorted. Of course you do. To be fair, Kenrick did seem to favor the pretty blonde counselor over the others. I love it. They're so sweet. Literally, like, the first time I read this book, I was like, this is the greatest series ever. I love this. And then Sophie, again, Tarek is sus. Sophie glanced at Counselor Tarek. He was studying her with his intense, almost probing stare, and after what felt like an eternity, he said, I vote that we see what Sophie can do with this creature. If her progress isn't what it should be, we can always reassess. Why is everything he does so suspicious?
He's just... Watch him just be a normal character.
Watch him just be suspicious for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen, like, The Princess Diaries? And in the movie, there's, like, one random character who's really suspicious. He's, like, a next-door neighbor or something. It's really funny.
You mean the one her mom marries? In the next one?
No.
Her mom marries their neighbor, and they have a child. Have you seen the latest? The later?
Yeah, I've seen all of them. Or I don't remember how many there are.
Oh, no, he marries their teacher.
Yeah, she married the teacher.
You're
There's,
right.
like, an extra neighbor. No, it was the guy who was, like, training to be a bodyguard. He was really not smart. It was just really funny. He was so suspicious, but he was really just a suspicious character. Like, there was nothing weird about him. He just wasn't smart. It was so funny. Because the whole time I was like, he's so suspicious. Ugh. And Annabelle was just laughing at me because she was like, he's not suspicious.
So I bet mine is next because it's right after that. So the part where she's, we'll see, and be sure to tell your father we'll be monitoring your progress closely. He's not my father. A father wouldn't refuse to help find her kidnappers, and she didn't want to be the daughter of anyone who would let Sylvanie suffer at the hands of the Hexes just to avoid working for the council. But Grady wasn't callous, especially when it came to animals. There had to be something he wasn't telling her, something big. At first, I'm like, Sophie, calm down. I know you're 12 or 13 or whatever, 14, I don't know.
She's
but calm
13.
down. Yeah, 13. But then also, it's good that she's like, but there's got to be something to it. I'm not going to be that mad. Good job catching yourself. You should do that.
Yeah.
13, page 121, I have where they said, where is it? The tart berries fizzed and popped on her tongue, and the cake was smooth like melted butter. Smooth like melted butter?
There's so many weird food descriptions, and I'm just like, I don't know how to put that together in my head.
The cake was smooth, like melted butter. Have you ever had melted butter?
It's not good. I mean, okay, so
it's
Tristan,
good on things, but
my
a cake?
5-year-old brother will just pick up a stick of butter and just bite into it.
No.
like it's a banana.
My dad tells the story about how his best friend one time, who's got to be like ESTP, he's crazy. Anyway, he just picked it, they served butter at this place in a dish. He thought it was ice cream and just got a big spoonful of butter and stuck it in his mouth.
That's gross. And then...
Oh, wait. So I have more between.
Oh, you're good.
So on page 123, I was right when I got to... So I haven't read this book. I've read this book maybe 3 times. Definitely 2 times, but probably no more than 3 because... Exile was the last book I got to complete my series. And so
I remember whenever you were like, I don't have book 2.
Yeah,
and I was like,
and so I never read it, and I also hated it for some reason. I just thought it was so boring.
Because of the beginning. The beginning wasn't as long as I remember. That's because I'm comparing it to 7.
Yeah, so when I speed reading this, it wasn't as boring, and I'm like, why did I hate on Exile for so long? But then again, it is kind of boring. Anyway.
I mean, compared to
there's a bug on me! What? Anyway. There was just like a tiny little gnat crawling on my knee. Okay. Back to what I was saying.
She freaked out. I was like, what?
I didn't know what kind of bug it is. I was just like, get it off. Anyway. When I read this, I was like, what are they talking about? And then it goes, I know we can't trust the Black Swan, he whispered, because the Black Swan murdered Jolie. And I was like, I literally completely forgot about the Black Swan murdered Jolie thing. Entirely. That's a plot thread. Yeah, it is.
And it's just proved at the very end. But throughout the whole, book 2, you thought
I
never believed it. Yeah.
I just forgot. I was like, it was like I was reading it for the first time. I was like, what are they where is this going? Yep.
And you were like, I can't remember why her abilities were broken, but don't tell me. And I was like, okay.
And then I just have on page 128, where is it? Sophie, you drama queen, because Grady says something, and Sophie's like, Sophie clutched her stomach like she'd been punched. She would always be connected to the Black Swan. Always. Sophie, Grady called as she turned and ran, but she couldn't stop, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but race upstairs, shut herself in her bedroom, and collapse on the bed. Yes, like he didn't even mean to, and he doesn't mean it. And she's just like...
so...
she's so
I know
dramatic.
she's 13, but she's so immature. This is like the sort of thing, I mean, she used to be so immature. Maybe I was just weirdly mature at 13. I don't think so. I don't know many 13-year-olds who would do that.
Would I do that? Not at 13. At 12, maybe.
At 9? No, I wouldn't even. Because my family, there were so many kids, my family would just be like, she'll be down. She'll be down in a few hours.
I have my diaries, so I know I was dramatic. I just don't think I was outwardly dramatic.
Right, just in
But I was really dramatic in my head, just not outwardly.
That makes sense.
Running up to my room and slamming the door would either get me in very big trouble or I would be very embarrassed. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would... One time I ran downstairs yelling, and it was because Karis, whenever we were in our old house, I was on a top bunk above her, and she would kick the top bunk, right? And she was always told not to do that, because turns out here's what happens. If you kick the top bunk, the mattress can fall through the bed frame, and it did, so I fell off the bed frame because I just rolled down. I did run downstairs yelling in the middle of the night then, and I was like, Mom, Karis broke the bed. She came up in the room and was like,
Savannah?
She had a baby, yeah.
She jumped on my bed and broke it. I told her not to,
ESFP
and she did it, yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I told her not to, and she did it. That's exactly how it went. She just sat there under the bed. She was scared she was going to get in trouble. Mom just came in. She had... I don't know who was baby then. Liam? Calla? She was holding a baby. She came in and just flipped on the light and just stared like with the most exhausted look. She's like, are you kidding me? It was really funny.
Okay.
What does limbium do? Sophie talking about limbium.
What chapter are you on?
This is, I guess it's 15.
Oh, okay, you're ahead of me. So,
okay, you
129. I can't talk about that. Continue.
Okay. So Sophie's asking, like, what does limbium do? And they're like, it affects many things depending on what you mix it with. Mainly, it affects the limbic system.
I have
Sophie's
a note here, too.
Awesome. A diagram from one of her old human science books filled Sophie's
limbic
memory.
System.
Yeah, it seems like that would connect. And she's like, oh, that's the emotional center of the brain. Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's also behavior, long-term memory, and motivation. It's also the root of any special ability, not something to be tampered with lightly. So, not going to go much into detail with, but there's 2 reasons that limbium would affect her the way it does. One of them is because of special ability, which has been tampered with. Another is the emotional center of the brain. And as evidenced by the fact that she can feel Sylvain's thoughts, she has a lot of emotional tampering in her brain too.
Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of emotional connection.
Do you remember when I did all that limbium research? I just had these random weird connections, and I have them written down. There's like a blog post where I'm just like, okay, see if you can follow, and I just wrote down a bunch of theories about limbium and what happened in her missing memory. Remember? And it actually turned out to be on the right track. Maybe I can post that. Anyway.
What was I gonna say?
That's another one I'm like, yes, I did good. I was smarter 2 years ago. By far.
I did so much research on the thing in number 8, the ability thing. With the dwarves. 8.
Oh, yeah.
I did research on that, and I completely figured it out, and I was so proud, and I posted it as it wasn't a blog post, but it was like a main post on the wiki. I'm not on there now, but maybe if you search for it, you can find it.
I don't think you've shown me that.
I think I read it in our book one spoiler episode, but I'll show you again later because I didn't go much into detail about it, and I just read it out loud, which makes it harder to follow. Cool. But it's very in depth, and I was so proud that I figured it out, and everyone was like, "How on earth did you put this all together?" I was like, "It's my AI."
Okay.
What was this? Oh. Whenever I didn't realize, Kessler and Shoreline, I don't pay much attention to Dex's family, but I guess I should have, because in book 1, whenever Dex is captured, that's right, they would have been sad about it too, and the triplets.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, Dex said, I've had enough sedatives to last 5 lifetimes, and it said Kessler coughed, but it sounded more like a choke, and I was like, oh yeah, I would have been sad too.
Yeah.
So I think I'm even more ahead now, so I'm just gonna let you kind of catch up. I'm in the end of 15.
So am I. Okay, so I just have one here. I just said, oh, Dex, because, where is it? It was really sweet. Oh, is that Sophie leaned closer, squinting at the mark? They burned you? She thought they'd only done that to her, but there was the proof, right on Dex's skin. She didn't realize until she reached out to touch it, until Dex jumped. It's like, oh, and then he says, they told me they'd do it to you if I moved again, so I didn't move. I barely let myself breathe.
He was so sweet. This is a little bit earlier in that conversation, but she was like, oh, are you practicing with your ability? Just until I manifest something else. You're so weird. That's why you like me. It's so Keith.
Yeah.
He's very young Keith. And then my next note is in 16.
Okay, mine's at 152, which is the same chapter. Go ahead.
In 16, you're doing it again, Dex said, nudging Sophie with his elbow. That thing where you stare into space, totally oblivious to everything around you. Usually it means you're planning some secret thing that'll end in an emergency Ellen call. I can relate to that so much. Just like whenever I plan or I'm thinking, I just stare into space blankly, and then I realize that I've been silently staring into space for several minutes, and that the people around me probably think I'm crazy. So yeah, it's just something random I can relate to.
So here at 154 in 16 is where I said, fake a special ability. Because Morella's just like a fountain of information. Anyway, Stina's dad never manifested a special ability. but he tries to hide it. He even tried to fake one when he was younger so he could still take the elite levels and join the nobility. But of course he got caught because, dude, you can't fake a special ability. They expelled him and he had to finish his education at Exile. So when Marilla says things, they're usually not true. There's usually an exception. Like what she said about pyrokinesis. Like, there's usually something ironic to what she says. And so I think that supports the Tarek theory. We should write out our Tarek theory.
Yeah. We should also isolate our Tiergan parent theory, which I'm going to touch on more in this. But I feel like we could even just make a full finished Tarek episode. Like, once we finish the whole series, we should revisit all of our earlier theories and say this is our final theory. And we have to do it before November. Yes. And then my next note is still in the same chapter as my last one. Sandor, who had given her a 20-minute lecture on how dangerous it was for her to leave slurps and burps without telling him, had insisted on inspecting the package before delivering it to her. What was next? Was he going to start searching her laundry before the gnomes delivered it to her room, worried the kidnappers might attack her with deadly socks?
I was like, deadly socks?
So 2 things. First of all, I totally forgot about Sandor and Slurps and Burps. She was talking to Dex and then she just leapt away. And then it's like Sandor gave her a 20-minute lecture. I was like, I totally forgot he went at all.
I was thinking that too. I was like, did Shannon just forget and have to compensate?
Editor, the editor was probably like, oh, you forgot about it. She was probably like, Sophie did too.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was the deadly socks thing. Sophie's sarcasm is so funny. And it, like, goes away for a little bit, but then it comes back again whenever she becomes more confident in the later books, and I love it. It's really funny. Shannon's just a really funny writer. And then...
where are you now?
Still on the same page as what I just said, but that's all chapter 16.
Okay.
There were many, many questions racing through Sophie's mind as she scratched the neck where the furry collar was tickling it. But the most important one was probably, why am I dressed like a shaggy elephant? The deadpan humor in this.
I love it.
Okay, so the theory I had, this is still the same chapter, with the level mascots and the jewel colors. Now, it could be something totally unrelated, but I don't feel like Shannon would so specifically choose the same jewels that have been mentioned as, like, the counselor's signatures for the Foxfire mascots if they had nothing to do with each other. Because think about when Foxfire was founded, someone had to choose the jewels that went in the mascots. So what would have made sense was that the counselors were just like, oh, we'll use our circlet colors. So I'm wondering if at that point they just chose 6 of the 12 counselors, or if there were just 6 counselors whenever Foxfire was founded. Because we know that originally there were just 3.
Yeah.
And those counselors just volunteered their circlet colors for it. So I did research and figured out which counselors that would mean were on the council at the time. So it's Onyx for level 1, Sapphire for level 2, Amber for level 3, Emerald for level 4, Ruby for level 5, and Diamond for level 6. And I think Diamond is the only one that doesn't have... Oh, no, that's not true. So Bront has the Onyx, the black one. Emery is the Sapphire. Then Kenrick is the Amber. Emerald is Tarek, I knew that. Fenton is the Ruby, and then Diamond is Ramira. All of those jewels are, like, related to specific counselors. Now, one weird thing, Lyora, whose circlet is a pearl, she's said to be the second longest standing counselor, second to Bront, which would make sense then if there were more counselors then, and just 6 of them volunteered their circlet colors for it and said, oh, this would make sense with the mascot, because, like, the Amber one, that's Kenrick's, was for the Mastadoon. That was level 3. Or Mastodon, however you say it. And then Bront's was for the Gremlin. Because, you know, the black. And so, I don't know if that would just... They were just like, oh yeah, we'll use my particular jewel. But anyway, that would be crazy if those counselors are there for that long. Like, those specific ones, especially Kenrick. Like...
I don't think it's true, but it could be.
It's a theory. Yeah. It's an idea.
It could be a headcanon. Like...
That's what I'm saying anyway.
What I'm thinking is Shannon could have just run out of jewels.
There's a lot of jewels, though. I feel like.
Maybe.
I have no idea. I've never done research on jewels. So tell me if there's a lot of jewels.
I don't think so. I don't think there's that many.
I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah. I'll look it up later. As a headcanon. And it could be true. Anything could be true.
Anything could be true. Yeah. A lot of So this is just kind of a really funny back and forth. Arl, aren't you guys cute? Stina sneered. Better watch out, Biana. It's only a matter of time before she drags your whole family down to her level. And she's talking about Sophie and Biana, like the backers.
I have a spoiler note on that.
That's still way higher than your family, Sophie snapped back. Stina grabbed Sophie's tunic. Whatever you think you know about my family. Unhand her, Sander growled. Though coming from him, it sounded more like a squeak, and as he bolted out of the shadows and yanked Stina away. Sophie laughed as Stina squealed. Maybe having a bodyguard wouldn't be so bad after all. Are you okay, Miss Foster? Sander asked. I'm fine, thank you. Good. He turned back to Stina, patting the weapon at his side. I have my eye on you. You look scared, Dex told Stina as she watched Sandor melt back into the shadows. Did you pee your pants? I don't talk to trash. Stina stalked away, but Dex called after her. Better be nice to me. I'd hate you to have exploding... I'm not allowed to say that, but I'm going to say it. I'd hate you to have exploding farts at the opening ceremonies. If you even think about slipping me one of your... I'm just going to say the words. One of your stupid elixirs, I will have you booted to Exilium so fast you won't know what hit you. Kind of like what happened to your dad? Morella asked, joining their group just in time to block Stina's path. That's right. I know all of the Hex family secrets. Just like that whole exchange is so funny and just so back and forth where they just constantly roast each other. And sorry for all of the asides. Yeah, those are all, some of those are forbidden words, but like I'm allowed to say it when I'm reading stuff, so...
I love how you're like almost in college and you're just like...
I'm like, no. I can't say stupid. Yeah, and then... I've highlighted the thing that you were saying a second ago. Stina's dad never manifested a special ability and tried to hide it.
Yeah.
You can fake a special ability.
Or you can attempt to.
Or yeah,
they don't
you
know
can try anyway.
They don't know if it's been successfully done.
I literally said, yeah, you could. Tarek is. And then... The only reason Stina's parents weren't ruled a bad match was because her dad's sister is married to someone who works in the matchmaking office and they rigged the results, Marla added quietly. Of course, there's no way to prove that, but come on, how else would someone without a special ability end up matched to an empath? Jax's hands curled into fists. If that's true. Of course it's true, Marla interrupted. Why do you think her dad took her mom's name? And I have a note. I want to see what particularly I thought. I was like, this just seems important. Like the first part that... what's his name? Timken, thank you. I was like, Tyrgen. Timken. There it is. He completely snuck into the nobility just because his relative is in the matchmaking office. Right, and no one's like calling him out on that. Dex is mad because, you know, his family suffered so much because of the matchmaking system. And then Morella's just like, yeah, I mean, they totally switched last names. So... Oh, and then on the next page, where Dex said, it's just so creepy, Dophie. It's just so funny.
Really?
It's childish.
I have one here. Continue.
He grabbed her hands as she tried to shove him, and his face turned serious. You're not bad at all. You're awesome. He blushed after he said it. Sophie dropped her eyes to the ground. It's just so
my
awkward.
note on this is, my note says it's easy to ship Dexfie at this point in the book.
Like, so okay,
if all you've seen is Fitzfie, and you're like, what else can I ship? And Keith he literally has barely been in the book so far. I was like, it would be easy to ship Dexfie at that point.
I don't know. I was like, this is awkward.
No, I thought that was cute.
Oh, and randomly, Jinsey seemed glued to Biana's side. And I was like, I forgot about that. We've got, that's spoiler. Somebody has competition.
Yeah.
Later in chapter 17, do you have anything else in 16?
Nope.
In 17, man, why can't I be a telepath? Marilla said, ignoring Dex. I'd better manifest a special ability this year, and it'd better be something good, like vanishing. Though I'll probably be a guster like my dad, controlling the wind. Yeah.
I have a spoiler note, but I can just say, that seems important.
I said, oop, the foreshadow.
Yeah. Wait, foreshadow?
It's not. It's just like the irony, sort of.
Kind of. I have a better note. I have not a better than yours, but I have a good.
My note is better than yours.
I have a good, interesting thing for the spoiler one. So.
Marilla nodded. Level 8, I think. No point in learning to speak ogre if you aren't going to be nobility, you know? That's what I was talking about. They mentioned that you learn to speak ogre in the nobility.
Gotcha.
And that does come in book 3. Oh, good. You're spending more time with Wonder Boy, Dex muttered under his breath, earning himself a glare from Sophie. Morella laughed. What? Dex snapped. Oh, nothing. She tossed her hair and grinned at Sophie. I just have a feeling this is going to be a very interesting year.
Yes. Morella.
I love
Morella
how she just catches on so fast.
Morella was me in my class sometimes. So I have a spoiler note here, so I'm just going to keep it. But then Keith comes in. I was like, yay, Keith. Anyway.
This is it. I was getting tired of stomping Fitz to a pulp and bramble. Only because you cheat, Fitz shouted, tossing a red tri-pointed ball at Keith. Keith caught it and whipped it back so fast, Fitz had to dive to avoid being smacked in the face. Then the strange ball curved back like a boomerang, and Keith caught it one-handed. Only losers play fair, which is why I call Foster for my team today. I just, that's gotta be such a strange sport. What on earth?
Yeah, for real.
A boomerang triangle ball?
Yep. And then my next, I like it though, it's creative. My next note is, I just love how Keith is like, wait, what's the context for this? Well, it's also interesting because of ships, but Sophie suspected Bianna's frustration had more to do with the fact that Keith didn't want to be on her team, though. Looks like no abilities win, so why don't you team up with Bianna, Keith? She tried, and then Keith's like, divert, fix it. But then what he says is funny, too. No way, Keith said. If abilities aren't allowed, then I'm with Fitz. He'll let me cheat. I was like, I love that. He'll let me cheat.
And right above that note, lame. I vote for the unstoppable Team Keith, or Team Foster Keith if you're one of those egomaniacs who needs your name in there. I can share some credit.
And then later, just that's funny because he's like, the great Foster in the later books. It's so sweet.
In chapter 18 is my next note. Do you have anything else to 17?
Nope.
All right.
Why did I sing?
In 18, where she gets stuck in the tree, before she could even scream, Fitz shouted, I got her! And two arms wrapped around her waist. Two more arms wrapped around her waist. The momentum from his jump pushed them sideways, and somehow he managed to flip them before they crashed, sending them tumbling across the soft grass. Are you guys okay? Keith asked, running over, and then Keith turns into Jinsey. Dude, Fitz, you should have seen how high you jumped to catch her, and the way you guys curved through the air and flipped across the ground. Awesome.
See, my note here is I can't picture the scene at all. Like,
it's so weird.
So she's running down a hill.
Jumps.
Lands
in a tree. Then Fitz goes up to the tree.
But spoiler-wise, we know.
What?
Oh, that's not a spoiler. Did she teleport?
In this book, I think she was like miniature teleporting then.
Okay, because I was like so confused because I've always pictured it as in she's in a forest, no one's around to see her, and then they see her at the top of the tree falling. But I noticed like they did see her, and so I'm like, how did they?
Well, Fitz says that she was blinking, so she was like miniature teleporting while she was jumping.
And so I don't know why I pictured that so weird, but I can't picture it. And then Fitz like super jumps or something somehow. I don't know.
And then Sophie's so immature, and the ships are just so cringe at this point. Fitz grabs her hand, and he's like, "Oh, these look bad, Sophie. You should get them treated." I'm fine, she said, trying not to think about the blood or the fact that Fitz was technically holding her hand.
I was like, gosh.
Oh. If it was like Kate, we'd probably be like, oh.
That's like those kids who are like, I held my crush's hand in prayer time, and stuff like that.
I'm like,
yep.
My look, I don't have a way to describe that. It's just like really, like, you know, in Frozen when Sven looks at Kristoff like, really. That was my face.
So my next one is on 171, and it's where Fitz grinned at her, and this time everything inside Sophie turned fluttery. Thanks, anytime. And I just put, this is hard because I don't hate Fitz yet. And so it's like slightly cute, but then I'm like, it's funny to read back here. Oh, I don't have notes after this for a while, so go ahead.
A little bit down the page, it's like, Sophie thought about trying the Bianna stuff, hair curling elixirs and rosy cheek powder. I was like, at that age, I was like that. I would be like, oh, I might try this. Never mind.
Well, see, here's the thing. Have you ever been in someone's room and you're like, looking at their stuff. I don't know. It just made me think of that awkward time where someone's like, "Oh, can you go get this from my room?" And you're just like, look at all their stuff.
Yeah, whenever people send me to, like, get their stuff for them, I'm like, Someone at my workplace was like, "Hey, can you go grab my bag for me and bring it to me?" And I was, and grab this thing from inside of it. And I was like,
it's just like a weird, I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, "You want me to go in your bag?" I don't know you that well, but okay.
I don't have one until almost like the end of chapter 23. So
okay, this is it. This is a yellow highlight, which means this is part of the rebels' plan. Alden frowned and murmured, "Our world is changing, Sophie." He stared into space for so long, she thought he must be done. But then he added, "What happened to you and Dex frightened people, shattered their sense of safety and confidence in the council. Not that anyone blames you, of course." So that was the rebels' plan, was to shatter the confidence in the council. That's like their first priority, to be able to establish themselves as the leaders eventually, and then move on to their human sanctuary plan, which I really think that's Fenton's main goal, at least.
Maybe.
Because he seems to be against Bront for sure.
I think it's someone else who I can't mention also.
Well, that person's more focused on...
Yeah, but at the same time...
I love how we're just non-verbally communicating about it. We'll talk about this in the spoiler episode.
We'll talk about this later.
She bent and reached into her ankle pocket. I completely forget all the time about their ankle pocket. And then Alden froze, because she's like, "Do you think the Black Swan murdered Jolie?" And it said, Alden froze. "Why do you ask?" "Because I don't think they did." It felt good to say that out loud. Made it feel real. That's how I am. Like, until I hear something said out loud, if it's just in my head, I'm like, no. But whenever I say it out loud to someone, I'm like... That's
why I don't say some things out loud. Like, my sister will be like, tell me about this. And I'm like,
No.
Yeah.
And then... Alden... I'm trying to remember where I highlighted this. Oh, right. She was trying to figure out what the clue meant, and Alden was like, "Whose past do you think it's talking about?" Because it's let the past be your guide, and he's like, "Whose past? Yours?" And she said, "What if it's Prentice?" "Prentice?" Alden repeated, turning pale. I'm just going to bring up in this episode all the times that Alden pales, and then whenever we get to the spoiler episodes, I'm going to tell you why I am.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get it.
And how it connects.
Got it.
But I have a quote right here that I'm going to read later. And then, this is kind of funny. This is not necessarily related, but it's like he's talking about Prentice. "Believe me, I can't tell you how much I wish it weren't so." He said, "Prentice is not the answer. Prentice is nothing. Believe me, I can't tell you how much I wish it weren't so." His voice cracked on the last part when he looked away. When he turned back to her, he looked 50 years older. I said, picturing a 70-year-old Alden here, his hair turns white, he grows like a beard, and his whole face goes... I don't know. That creeps me out. It's like, have you seen, like, in The Hobbit where Bilbo, like, does the flash to the, like, you know what I'm talking about? Oh my goodness. It's
I should know that, but...
He does, like, a jump scare. I think it's in Lord of the Rings, actually.
Okay, if it's in Lord of the Rings, I haven't seen Lord of the Rings because I haven't read it yet, and I have told myself I'm not watching it until I read it.
I've seen like to read it then.
Yeah, I need to. Very
he
badly.
does a jump scare, and it's like a really famous scene because everyone's like, "Why?" But it's so scary every time. Like Annabelle literally braces herself, and she's like, "It's coming." It's great. Something passed across Alden's face, lightening some of the shadows and erasing the hard lines. He released her shoulders. "We should go. People are waiting for us. People who need us." And he says at the end of the book, like, the reason that part of his sanity held on was for the people who needed them, his family.
Yep.
That's going to relate again in the non-spoiler episode. Or in the spoiler. Whatever we're not doing. And then the next paragraph, she's talking about, like, I wonder how it is that I can heal Prentice. Exile wasn't a place that she could just drop by for a visit. Not that she'd ever be crazy enough to go there. The irony, like, 3 chapters later. And then the Alden meddling begins. The Sir Tiergan mentoring Sophie and Fitz in the same class was Alden's idea.
Oh, Fitz really? Was it?
What a surprise. That's in chapter 19 that he says that. Do you have anything in chapter 19?
No, I'm not till the end of chapter 23.
Okay, so in 20, the very first page of chapter 20, I get a third piece of Malamelt. Did I already say where I got the second piece? I think I did. But, yeah, she tugged out a loose eyelash.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Sophie has lost 3 eyelashes so far.
This is a foreshadow later in the chapter. Ogres don't value animal life the way we do.
You know
the trolls aren't so great either.
Sorry, I'm still on that train of thought. We should look up how many eyelashes an average person has, and then just see how many eyelashes Sophie has. Like, just ignore that they grow back and just count how many she would have.
How many she's at. Well, Vertina counts them in Everblaze.
Oh, yeah.
So, we actually will know. It was like 200 something or something. Then in
that's
21,
probably something random Shannon researched too.
Maybe so. Oh, that's true. That's so weird.
Anyway.
Sophie said she doubted Stina was skilled enough to walk and chew gum at the same time. What? That's just so random.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's like a real saying. Mm-hmm. Sophie tugged out another eyelash. 4 pieces of Malamelt for me. I'm almost beating Grady's record from book 1. And then 22, Alden says, we're now one, he means 2, I guess, of about 20 people who know where it is, besides those exiled, of course. Has it triggered any memories? And I was like, 20? Because they said the counselors know how to get to Exile. Does that mean there've only been like 20 counselors ever?
Unless they erase it from their minds.
I guess.
Put it in the catch.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're no longer a counselor. Bye. Yeah.
Probably.
Because that would be smart.
And then Finton, the elf she'd accused of sparking the Everblaze. This is where they're talking.
So that means, sorry, I'm still thinking about that. 12 counselors, Alden and Sophie. So that leaves...
They said we're 2, about 20, 12. There are at least 6 others. So there are 3 original counselors. Who knows if Brunt was one of the 3 original, but we know Fallon was one.
If Alden's an emissary... Well, I'm talking about if... Say they erased it from people's minds.
Who would be the other?
Yeah, so
6?
Probably Grady, because he's an emissary. Well, not at that point, though.
There's a lot of them, though. I feel like there's like 40 or 50.
Well, if they... How do certain people get to Exile in the future? Where there's... No, they weren't there.
Wait.
No, they weren't. Yeah.
We'll talk about this in the spoilery one.
There's
I'm
like
confused.
6, though.
Yeah. And then, okay, so Finton. The elf she'd accused of sparking the Everblaze. The elf who claimed he was innocent, although he was clearly hiding something. And I was just like, because the questioning, there had been interrogations before this with Finton. And I was like, so this all had been related to Alden and related to Sophie, which means my theory was right about, I'll talk about it in the spoiler episode. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Sophie's like, do you think breaking Prentice's spine was a mistake? And Alden said, I try very hard not to think about it. So that's kind of the foreshadow to him breaking. And then again, how many times do I have to tell you, Sophie? Prentice is useless. The emotion in his voice knocked her back a step, but she couldn't tell what it was. Sorrow? Anger? It's guilt, Sophie. I'm sorry, he said after a second, rubbing his temples. I wish it could change, but I can't. He sounded so incredibly weary, and...
Incredibly weary.
I gotta revisit this in our spoiler episode.
That's just such a... Like, I like that description of tired, weary. He's just like...
Yeah.
I just want to give up.
I have so many mirrors for this. Okay. Oh, man. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awful, but it's gonna be great because...
What chapter are you in?
23.
Okay, cool. I have 1 in 23.
And then he said, he's like, one person can get past your blocking ever, Sophie. You have an impenetrable mind. She's like, Sylvanie can also get past my blocking. And he's like, fine. One person in an alicorn. It's still much better than our strongest keeper, who's had dozens of telepaths slip through. And I'm like, who's your strongest keeper? He seemed like he was like referencing a specific person.
Huh.
What's your note?
It's just that, okay, I just put Shannon, what on earth? Because, what? So they're walking out of Exile, and it's like, but then a face appeared in one of the windows. Moss green skin, and slits for a nose, and brown fangs peeking through its flat lips. Sophie looked away, but she could feel it staring after her with its bulging, milky eyes as they passed. What?
What kind of creature? It must be an ogre.
I guess. I don't know. Like, did she just think of a monster and then just be like, ah?
Yeah, that one's fine. This is in 24 when they're interrogating Fenton, like right before they break his mind. They're like, the door opened and a raspy voice said, "I guess this means the council has decided to make good on their threats. Unless you'd like to make this easier on everyone," Alden told him. "It's not too late. Oh, it's far too late. Far too late." The resignation in Fenton's voice pricked at Sophie's heart, and I was like, if he was already a part of the rebels, trying to hide it at this point, and he's saying it's too late, it's just so weird. Like, it seems like he's not trying to hide it anymore. That he is hiding something, because it's clear that he's hiding something. He's just trying to hide what it is that he's hiding.
I'm not following.
So it's obvious that he's evil, basically, at this point. And the whole reason they're there is because they're trying to recover one specific memory, and the specific memory has to do with the background information. We know he's been interrogated before, and it's been an ongoing thing with the council, and that's why they've gotten to the point of the memory break, because they know he's hiding something, but he won't tell them what it is. And so
why is this weird?
It's just he's not trying to hide that he's evil anymore. He's just trying to hide the memory, so it's like a separation of,
or not even things. Evil, just rebellious.
And then, "I'll admit, I didn't think they'd send you," Fenton added quietly. "I guess I could see it as a compliment. They sent their star." And I was like, Alden's their star? That's weird, okay. I guess that makes sense, because he would be, like, I guess the favorite emissary. He's always the one known to be doing work for them. And, I mean, obviously, Kenrick's informing him of everything that's going on.
Talking about Sophie?
No, he's talking about... Alden sighed and took a few steps forward. "Fenton, I implore you to see reason." "Ah, you're not alone. I'd wondered." So he hadn't even seen Sophie then. He had only seen Alden. "You, hiding back there. No need to be afraid. They've gone to great lengths to make sure I'm perfectly harmless." Sophie peeked around Alden's side. Okay, this is suspicious because I've seen a Fenton and Orly are siblings theory, and I don't know if I agree with it, but, like, it's suspicious. Fenton was thinner than she'd expected, almost fragile-looking, with sky-blue eyes and slender features.
Oh, that's actually... fragile-looking.
Blonde hair also. It's messy blonde hair, so and wavy-ish.
Yeah.
Fragile, slender.
Do they ever describe her
delicate features?
Sky blue?
She has azure eyes.
Yeah, but
they have different color blue eyes.
Okay.
But other than that,
interesting.
Similarities.
Yeah.
And I was like, And I've even seen theories like they could be cousins or something. But that adds a lot of layers to the future books.
Siblings could be true, but it would be very well hidden. Like, I don't know why they would hide that so well. Anyway,
Sophie nodded, focusing on his ears. This was the thing. He's much older than Orly. The tops of his ears curled into more prominent points than Braunt's, sticking out of his messy blonde hair. Messy blonde hair, that was it. So, like, it's wavy. And then I said, "Whoa, how old is he?" So he was probably on the council either before Braunt, and Braunt was elected onto it with him, because Fenton's older. He could have been one of the original three, I guess.
He's very old. Well, no, because then he would be like Fallon, and that.
That's even older?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Fallon can't keep his thoughts straight. And so I just assumed that everyone who's old like that. So I was just saying, Jaycie had to cut something out. But I was just saying that Fenton can't be on the original council, because if he were that old, he would be like Fallon.
And then continuing the memory break conversation, he's like, "I would have loved to see the Everblaze again before He closed his eyes. "If you tell us what you know, there wouldn't be a before," so Alden reminded him. "I know, but, like, think about it. You're basically, you're about to die, basically."
Yeah, but...
It's basically the death penalty.
Yeah, but think about the next book. I think
Still, he doesn't know for 100% sure. Like, you don't know.
Well, true, yeah, I guess. But, I think he's mostly being dramatic, because he
wants to hide that he knows.
Thinking yeah.
And then "We both know that I'm never leaving this cold, empty room with no warmth, no kindling, nothing but solid metal and fireproof clothes, a life with no heat, with no fire. It isn't worth living." And I said, "Oh, never mind, that's a spoiler. Besides," he added...
He's obsessed with fire.
I know, it's so weird. "Besides," he added, shifting as much as his bonds would allow, "some secrets are worth protecting." So you admit you are hiding something, Alden asked him. Fenton's hands curled around the metal arms of his chair, turning his knuckles white. Our world is broken, Alden, and all the council does about it is condemn anyone brave enough to acknowledge that we have a problem.
He's not wrong.
Break our minds, lock us deep in the earth, convince themselves that we're the criminals. But who are the ones ruining lives, destroying families, forbidding people from using their abilities, relegating them to working class? Pyrokinesis was forbidden because your insatiable craving for power killed 5 people. You supported the decision when you resigned from the council. That was a regrettable mistake, Fenton whispered. And I understood the need for change, but then I lived the life they had relegated me to, treated like the talentless, with no way to satisfy my craving for flame. It's the daily struggle not to let my sanity slip away.
See, here's the thing. He's not wrong about the council, but he wants to burn it all down. You don't need to burn it down. You need to improve it.
And then he says it's a daily struggle not to let my sanity slip away. I'm not so certain you've succeeded, Alden answered. So he's like, you seem insane. Alden's voice was cold, but Sophie couldn't help feeling a tiny stab of sympathy for Fenton. Having a special ability meant everything in their world. She could imagine how frustrating it would be to have one and have to deny it. And if his body actually craved it. And that's only a small problem, Fenton added, his voice building steam. Left to their own devices, the council will let everything we've built crumble to dust. Someone had to stand up and fight for what matters. And while I'm not the one who cast the first sparks, I am willing to keep the flames alive. And then Alden goes, the flames have been extinguished. And I said, warriors imagine dragons, and we didn't start the fire. Those are the songs Shannon used for that. It's like almost verbatim the lyrics.
So mine is just
page.
230, where it says, she leaned back to take a better look at him. His beautiful teal eyes looked dull and tired, and his hair was matted against his forehead from the blood still streaming down his face. She gagged. Like, he literally just woke up. She's trying to decide if she's going to hug him or not, and she just goes, and gags. And it's like a dramatic, like, on its own line.
Yeah.
She gagged. Like, gracious, what? Sophie. And then I was just like, it's just a cut.
So, a few pages into the chapter, Alden punched the ground with his good hand, uttering a word Sophie had never heard before. She assumed it wasn't a good one. That means the only 2 characters, there's only been 2 characters, I should say, that have been mentioned to say an actual, like, bad word. Well, that was in his head. I'm saying, like, an actual bad word. And that's Alden and Bront. Yeah.
That's funny.
I said, are him and Bront the only 2 that actually curse? Keeps mine does, but is that it?
I would die laughing if Sophie did.
So funny. And, no, she dies in book 1.
She does?
She drops something on her foot and it said, like, she kicked it, saying a word she wasn't supposed to say. And Dex is like, okay. Or maybe it was Morella. Morella goes, okay. And then Dex walks over and she goes, watch out.
Oh my gosh. I need to find that.
She's literally, like, shielding baby Dex, like, watch out. Where is it? So Alden describes what it's like to be broken. I had no idea who I was anymore, but I did feel like there was something missing, something I needed to know that was just out of my reach. I kept fighting my way toward it, but I wasn't getting anywhere until I felt a trickle of warmth and followed it. There were suddenly images all around me, people who felt familiar, even though I couldn't remember who they were. Not until I saw your face in the mix and heard your voice, and then everything snapped into place, and I realized I had to fight for the people I care about. That gave me the strength to pull myself free.
Does that mean he cares about Sophie more than he cares about his children?
I think it was just that he heard her in his head because she was the only one actually there. Which will be important later. And then she's like, do you think we could say Fenton? And he's like, Fenton's broken. There's nothing more that can be done here. We have to go home. And so this reminds me of me. Myself is like literally every Keeper book. Alden, that's impossible, Sophie. You can't do that. Sophie does it.
Yep.
Fenton's faint, broken laughter filled the hall before the door closed, and Sophie had a horrible feeling the sound would haunt her nightmares for months to come. It doesn't, but it should. I feel like that was creepy enough that
I think
it should.
it does.
Maybe. That was Brant.
Oh, okay.
No, it was...
Yeah, it was Brant.
Okay, 27 is my next one.
Okay. Wait, 227? Oh,
27.
Okay.
Like
so 238, I just have Sophie, because she's being impulsive again. She's just like... It's just funny. Anyway, yeah. I don't have many notes because I was just reading. There's another bug! Oh, I just blew it off. Why are there bugs over here? I'm gonna get up from this chair and be like, covered in ant bites. Anyway.
Later in that chapter, whenever Sophie's inside Princess's mind, it says that she saw, like, 2 teal jewel eyes or something, and I was like, is this just a thing? Like, people remember teal eyes? Well, who was the other one? Oh, Sophie, in the beginning, in the preface of book 1. It was like, she just saw 2 teal eyes, Fitz's eyes, the first friend in her new life, her first friend ever. And then here,
my headcanon that they're faking it.
I love that. But, yeah, it was like, Princess just saw 2 jeweled teal eyes. It's like
creepy. It was like literal jewels in Princess's mind.
I was like, why does everyone just remember teal eyes whenever they're, like, delirious?
Well, yeah, but then Alden was, like, the last person he saw.
Yeah,
so.
but Fitz was not the last person Sophie saw.
Yeah, but...
It's weird.
Yeah.
And then Sophie gets briefly lost. We can actually tell because it's like, no, she was someone, but who was she? So she gets, like, broken like Alden was.
Yep.
I
don't have one until 257, so, like,
okay.
a few chapters later.
And chapter 28, Sophie's like, I know you're angry that I read Princess's mind. He goes, you think I'm angry? His shout echoed off the walls, which sure made it seem like he was angry.
That's like, my dad.
It's mine too.
Wait, who's talking?
Alden.
That's so my dad. My dad, we're like, you're so mad. And he's like,
angry.
I'm not mad, I'm just frustrated.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then Alden sighed, the epic kind of sigh that sounded weary and frustrated and hopeless all at the same time. Ooh, and I have a note on that for whenever we get to the spoiler half, but it's another parallel between the shatter.
I just said I'm confused. What was I confused about?
My random little thing is, the thoughts had edges, rough bits that scraped and scuffed as she waded through, transmitting Alden's name over and over. At least his mind wasn't empty. There were memories to cling to, but they were tangled and twisted into an icy jumble, and she didn't know how to make sense of them.
I like the descriptions of...
Yeah.
It's cool.
It
really feels crazy.
Yeah, and it feels, like, realistic. Like, as non-realistic as a broken mind is, I was just like, oh, yeah, I accept
like,
this.
The whole
this
thing with Jolie and all of that, it just feels weird, but, like, a dream. Like, when you're delirious.
Yeah, it makes sense in a weird, doesn't make sense way. And then he apologizes. Sophie, I'm so sorry. I don't even know. And then he's shaking again. So all of these things are going to be important in the spoiler episode.
Yeah.
But I said, poor Alden. Like, he seems sad. And then he apologizes again. I'm sorry, he mumbled when his breathing calmed. I'm sorry for collapsing. This head injury must be worse than I thought. And Sophie just accepts that. Like, she doesn't even realize that he's shattered. She doesn't realize that he shattered then. She doesn't realize that he's shattering again until he completely shatters.
Elwin doesn't even notice, does he?
No, not until she realizes it later when Tyrion's there.
Elwin's right here, but, like, he doesn't even notice. Where am I? Oh, no, I'm 29, but I'll just read mine. So, I just said I'm confused because she gets back, and then she says all the horrors she'd seen during her probes mixed with her own fears and sandwiched together into the ultimate horror show in her mind. But the worst was a memory she didn't remember seeing. And then she tells this memory that she didn't talk about until now, but apparently it's in her mind. It was like, what?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What memory?
But the worst was a memory she didn't remember seeing. Prentice, strapped to a chair in a round room with projections on the wall. Sylvia had been there once when Alden had brought her to Quinlan's office in Atlantis. But this time, all the screens projected the same image, the sign of the swan. And it's talking about things, and then she realizes she's seeing it through Alden's mind.
That's weird.
Yeah, she's about to go to sleep. It's really weird. She's like, okay.
That's such a random interjection.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's not even important. Is it?
Yeah,
it's not even important.
My next one is in chapter 30,
it is
actually.
Interesting. She says Sophie could feel Alden's anger and sadness. She can feel Alden's emotions.
That's so weird.
And it's weird. I have one more here.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't know I did.
No, you're fine.
I just put, I put that's cute with, like, a mad face. Because Fitz says, just like old times, Fitz said sadly, I used to sit right here, giving you a dose every hour, watching the bits of color slowly return to your face and hoping you'd wake up.
And then he's like,
though.
And you woke up one of the few times that I wasn't there. And I was like, pout much, Fitz.
Yeah. I was like, that's cute and mad about it. But as we all know, something similar happens in the future. So we're just gonna leave that at that.
So before they're talking about the opening ceremonies thing, and Adeline's like, tonight will be a night you'll remember for the rest of your life. Oh, she had no doubt about that. She just had a feeling it would go down in history as the night Sophie Foster tripped on her trunk and fell on her face in front of the entire
Have I told you
elven
about
world.
when I was a space horse in a play?
Yes!
Yeah, I was just like, I feel that.
And it said, Iggy
so
laughed at her
funny.
when she put her costume on.
I was a Huenum in something called Missoula play. They won't know where that is
Goodness.
because it's like a traveling thing. Anyway, yeah, I was this space horse thing with all my friends, and it was it was so fun. But yeah, I relate. I dropped my tail in the toilet. I was in 7th grade. Yeah.
I want to see what my
It was an
note is here to
accident.
make sure I'm not.
In case you don't know.
I don't know. It sounds like if you had a tail, dropping it in the
I didn't
toilet.
like rip my tail off and drop it in the toilet.
What page? I
Yeah.
think I figured out that our pages do match up.
They do
what
on
page,
this, yeah.
What page is your next note on?
273.
Okay, so mine is on 270 supposedly. But it's talking about the counselors are talking to the people, and it's like maybe Sophie was imagining it, but the counselor smiles looked relieved as Emery promised an update soon, and everyone, it was like the cheering and applause was so loud it hurt her ears, and so I was like, oh, they do realize that like their authority is being challenged by the rebels, and that they really are, they're really kind of scared because they don't want there to be like, you know, uprisings.
Yep.
I almost feel bad.
So
I do
then
feel bad.
273, I
like
just
the
have in
council.
all caps, Tiergan.
Tiergan! Yes.
Wait.
Here's all the suspicious stuff. I'll keep an eye on her, a familiar voice volunteered. Sophie grinned as she spun to face a tall mentor with olive skin and light blonde hair. Sir Tiergan! Just Tiergan, he corrected, true to form. You seem surprised to see me. Had you been hoping they'd find a mentor who could actually match your incredible abilities? Actually, I already have that. You're very kind, but we both know I can never match you. I just said sus. Lowercase s, uppercase u, lowercase s. Sus!
Yep. Hold on. I think there's something on the next page, too.
This is funny, her trying to explain Fitz to Tiergan. No, I like Fitz. I mean, I don't like him. We're friends, not anything. It's fine. And Tiergan's just like, it wasn't my first choice, but if he could get past your blocking, I suppose it'll be worth investigating.
274, I just have an emoji that's like face palming. Why was that?
You said what page?
On 274. What was I saying to that?
She tried to imagine how it would be to have her, Fitz, and Tiergan alone in a small plain telepathy room, working so closely together. Just the thought made her heart feel fluttery.
That's probably what I was face palming at.
Ooh, you're Sophie. So this is the triplets.
No. Here's the other thing. Well, that's kind of spoilery. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna highlight that one.
So this is the triplets talking to Sophie, and I can relate so hard with my siblings. Oh my goodness, this is exactly what siblings are like. Ooh, you're Sophie? The girl who Sophie assumed was Bex asked. My brother talks about you all the time. No, I don't, and get back here, Lex. Dex grabbed one of the boys by his furry collar and jerked him back to his side. Yes, he does, the other boy who had to be Rex corrected, flashing a huge grin with a big black space where one of his front teeth was missing. He likes you. I do not. Yes, you do. Sophie stared at her furry feet as all three kids made kissing noises, and Dex threatened to destroy everything they owned and drag them away. Sorry, he said when he returned
Have you ever
gremlin-free.
had that happen when you don't like the person?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Every time. If I talk to a boy at all, that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man. Okay, now I'll explain the embarrassing situation that I was in. My siblings did that to somebody, and he was like, and I just walked away and never spoke to them again. And that was the earliest example of a door slam.
Remember Lander?
Yes, Lander. Yes.
Jaycie used to kick him, and we all...
I don't remember that. That
and
sounds
so
like
we
me.
all thought she liked him in 6th
Yeah,
grade.
I just roast people all the time, so people think I'm flirting with them, and I'm like, no, this is just what I do.
No, I'm still sus about, like, 4th grade you liking him. 4th grade Jaycie. Anyway.
That could be me. I've blocked out most of my 4th, 5th, 6th grade years from my memory completely because I was the world's most annoying person.
So I have where it says The bell chimed as she dipped an exaggerated curtsy, and everyone leaned back and opened their mouths to catch the white confetti that started raining over the auditorium.
That's so weird.
Sophie copied them, surprised that the confetti felt warm on her tongue and tasted like coconut and strawberries and other sweet fruits she couldn't name. Grab as much as you can, Dex shouted, stuffing handfuls of the candy anywhere he could store it. Now Sophie understood why those costumes had so many pockets. And I was like, manna?
That's true. Oh, that's so
It's
weird.
like white flakes coming down, and they're like, gather it all.
That's so weird. Okay, so this is Alden chattering again. Who is it? Sophie's like, oh, that's Wiley, isn't it? Do you think he blames me for what happened to his father? Mm-hmm. Several seconds passed, and she wondered if Alden had heard her. But then he murmured, no, Sophie, he blames me. The sorrow in his tone made her wish she could tell him that wasn't true. But if Tyrion blamed Alden, it was pretty safe to assume Wiley did too. Mm-hmm. Sophie's just so oblivious to the fact that, like, Alden's clearly shattering from guilt.
Well, she has never seen that, and she hasn't been in the Elven world very long.
Yeah. And then again, on the next page, Sophie glanced at Alden, surprised to see he looked pale and was shaking. And then he shatters again, and it's like there's a moment of silence, then Grady took charge. And I was like, that's literally what my dad did. You remember? Okay, we recorded a podcast right after this happened, but remember whenever the kid broke his arm in the football game, and my dad, like, ran out onto the field, and I was like, yeah.
Your dad was like, do something.
Yeah.
Now. So mine is right before this. This is random. I want to draw Keith in his costume because it's like a hoodie, like a tiger hoodie with fangs right here, like on the sides of his face, and I just want to draw him, like everybody in their costume. That would be fun.
That's a good idea.
I might do it.
So after this chapter, we're going to be out of time for today, but it's like exactly 50% through once we finish this chapter. Okay. So it'll be a good stopping point. But I just wanted to read the baby Keith Foster quotes because it's really cute.
Yeah, I have a note about that too. I said, is this one of the first real Keith Foster moments on 287?
Yes, I think that's where I am. Hold on. Yep. Whoa, what's going on, Foster? Keith asked as he rushed over from the shadows. I can feel your panic, like, from halfway across the courtyard. I don't know. She tried not to cry as she explained, but a few tears still leaked down her cheeks. Hey, it's okay, Keith said, raising his arms like he might hug her, and then dropping them back to his sides. He pushed back his hood, rumpling his messy hair before he said, Alden's going to be fine. Remember, Owen's a genius. Look at how many times he's brought you back from the dead. He meant it as a joke, but Sophie couldn't get past the word dead. If you'd seen how pale Alden looked, she whispered. Yeah, I'm sure it was pretty scary, but trust me, Sophie, nothing was scarier than the way you looked when you were fading. I really didn't think. He cleared his throat. Anyway, my point is, Owen got you back to normal. If he can do that, he can do anything. Sophie tried to nod, fast-forwarding a little bit. Hey, Keith said, stepping closer. Don't worry, okay? Am I ever wrong? Yes. That hurts, Foster. And I'm right about this. Owen will fix everything, I promise. And then Keith reached for her hand like he was going to grab it, but at the last second he pulled back and gave her a small salute instead, promising that he'd check on the Packers the next day. But as the rushing warmth pulled her away, she had a horrible feeling everything was about to fall apart. That writing is so pretty.
Yes. Oh, I love them.
So our next recording will start on chapter 33. But yeah, that is it for part 1.
We are long-winded,
yeah,
but
it's a good book.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Cities podcast. Leave us a review and tell a friend about the podcast if you liked us. Email us with comments and episode suggestions at theforbiddencitiespodcast@gmail.com. And to follow us on Instagram, just search @Forbidden Cities Podcast.